Hello, everyone. My name is Jessie Rosenberg, and welcome to today's Midday Masterclass. Today's session is with Sarah McCartney and Samantha Scriven, authors of The Perfume Companion, which is a beautifully illustrated compilation of almost 500 recommended scents designed to help you pick out your next favorite fragrance. Today, with their collective knowledge of the industry and expertise in the written word, we will dive beyond notes to how we can describe scent effectively. Notes lists rarely give customers the information they need to know in advance whether or not they like a perfume. It also gives the false impression that the perfumer uses the materials named. And as so much of fragrance shopping is now online, Sarah and Sam will discuss how we can describe scents using a wider frame of reference: place, texture, colour, emotion, and sound. Please feel free to add your questions, as we will have time at the end to answer anything that you want answered. And so with that being said, I'm delighted to welcome Sarah and Sam.
Here we are. Hello. Hi. And oh, you've spotlighted this, and here's the book by me and Sam. So I'm Sarah.
And I'm Sam.
And we're going to talk about writing about perfume. So Sam, who is my mate, so I got asked to write this book, and I thought, oh, that's an awful lot of writing. I'll ask my mate. So we both have put it together. And how long did it take us? 2-3 years?
We started in 2018.
Yeah. So anyway, it's out now. And Sam writes the blog I Sent You a Day. And I mostly make perfume here at 4,160 Tuesdays. So Sam is going to tell you about her writing first, and then and then we can have questions.
Hello, I'm Samantha Scriven. I've been writing my perfume blog, I Sent You a Day, for 9 years. I also write for clients who need descriptions or perfume backstories. I have also, as you might know, co-authored The Perfume Companion with my friend here. Why do I do it? For both books and blogs, the intention is the same. In a nutshell, I want to play Cupid. I love it when people tell me they wouldn't be without their beloved bottle of Paris No. 5 Aromatics Elixir. It means they found the one, or the 85, if like me, you like to spray around. How many times have we seen people mourn the loss of a long discontinued favourite, or go misty-eyed over a beloved aunt's fragrance or a grandmother's signature scent? I've done it myself. My late grandmother's fragrance was Coty Lemon, and I still wear it when I need her hand on my shoulder, and always at Christmas. Perfume is emotion bottled, and I know I'm not the first person to either realise or say that. Perfume is a dressing up box. Who shall I be today? Shall I strut in a chypre like one of Dior's new look models? Shall I float around in a tea dress in a cloud of ethereal florals? Or shall I play the mermaid and leave a hint of sea spray in my wake? Perfumes have enriched my life, and when I write about them, I want to help you find one that will enrich yours too. The thought of dusty, unloved blind buys on a dresser plunges me into gloom. I want to be the one who helps you to not do that. Perfume is not just a smell any more than football is only a game, so the argument goes in my house. Perfume evokes visceral reactions. It brings memories in a way that not even a photo album can do. It can bring back a Christmas day from 15 years ago more effectively than any TARDIS. It can bring back a carefree moment of your childhood or a rose-tinted memory of a past love affair. Perfume is like a narrator. Different fragrances are there for different chapters. It's an inexhaustible scene that I will never stop mining. I wanted to help my readers find that elusive thunderbolt moment that you get when you smell a scent for the first time and you just know that you want it to become a part of your life. I want them to read my reviews and think, thanks, Sam, dodged a bullet there, or so glad I found a substitute for my long-lost favourite. A spray of perfume is a simple pleasure. Sometimes with all the demands that modern life makes upon us, it's a blissful few minutes of total and utter autonomy. We deserve that. The outcome I hope for when I write about a fragrance is that I have tempted readers to find a perfume that becomes a treasured part of their life, a part of their memories, and even their identity, and that's why I do it. How? Before writing a word about perfume, I have to decide who I was writing for and what outcome I wanted. Did I want to entertain, tempt, educate? Do I want to send them to the shops, or did I want them to remember my words next time they get a Christmas voucher and they don't want to risk a blind buy? What tone was I setting? One of warning, full of thou shalt nots, or a friendly swapping of confidences? Was I inviting readers in or keeping them at arm's length? I would like to be the non-creepy, invisible friend standing next to you in the bewildering perfume halls and offering friendly guidance that leads you to the right one. I feel a warmth towards those I write for. I care enough not to want them to buy the wrong thing and feel disappointed. I want to beckon people towards a fragrance that gives them joy. Perfume by its very existence can enhance life and bring memories pinging back in glorious technicolor. So how do I start? Too blocked or not? I start with spraying on my skin. Some people start with blotters or muettes, but I'm not that patient. And unless you've written the name of the scent on the paper strip, it can mingle unhelpfully with other scented strips. We've all been there, right? The one scent rule, I make sure I'm not wearing any other fragrances and I sniff only once it's dry. At this point, I should probably add that one scent per arm is a good rule of thumb. It's a hard rule to stick to, says this voice of experience, but an important one. What to include and what to leave out. I often write down my first impressions without editing my thoughts. Let's take one of Sarah McCartney's, for example. What I did on my holidays by 4,160 Tuesdays. It immediately reminded me of seaside piers and candy floss stalls, so that's what I wrote down in my notes. Next thing I wrote was peppermint ? Then along comes a little bit of coconut to bring back memories of 1970s sunburn capers when you only had the sun cream after the sunburn. Those are my first impressions. So let's take this as an example. First, what does it smell like? Sun lotion, peppermint, sea air, candy floss. You notice I'm not listing notes here. I'm saying what I think this smells like. What else does it smell like? I tried to find something to compare it to. So in this case, I said Jill Sander Sun, which is a lovely perfume by Pierre Bourdon, on Black Bull Pier with a thoroughly British tweaking. They both have notes of coconut in common. So if you like one, you might be curious about kind of a pimped up version. How does it make you feel? Carefree, nostalgic, I can hear seagulls. How much is it? Could you buy it right now or wait until a lottery win? You could buy it right now. Is it easily available or do you have to ship it in across 2 continents via an eBay seller? It's easily available. So these are the points people need to know before they make a decision about whether to purchase it. The next thing I would say is listen to the music. Less often these days, I look up the notes of a perfume and it's usually after trying it and not before, because I think if you read the notes and then try it, it becomes quite suggestible and you start to look for the things that you've seen written down. You're not getting a proper honest impression. So when and if I eventually read the notes, it's partly to see if I was right and partly to see if I was missing something. And sometimes I don't do it at all. Increasingly, I find that the overall impression is more important than the top, base and middle. Increasingly, I find the two don't match at all. To me, it's equivalent of listening to the music instead of just reading the score. So now I've formed my opinion of what I did on my holidays. How do I communicate this on paper to someone who hasn't tried it yet? On one hand, I don't want to mislead anyone into buying a fragrance that doesn't suit them. On the other hand, I could be the devilish enabler that beckons with a finger of temptation, which leads us to be honest. It's important to maintain your reader's trust, and that means not surrendering to bribes or being swayed by freebies. If a product has been gifted, you should always declare it. It's not something I did early on in my blogging career because I didn't know any different, but now I do. And if I forget to add the gifted hashtag, please slap my wrist. Having said that, I've often bought things myself and I declare that using the purchased hashtag. Transparency is important. To the end of every blog post, I add that opinions are my own. Transparency is paramount. I'm not paid to like something. My opinion is not fact. I'd be genuinely upset if I'd misled someone into buying an expensive fragrance they subsequently disliked. For example, there are several perfumes that I recognize may be divisive, and I usually say so up front. Here's me in the opening paragraph of my blog review of Black Osmanthus by Marina Bartholomew. If you're in a floaty peony sort of mood, I'm afraid you've come out of the wrong lift. But if you're looking for Black Osmanthus, follow that woman with the black lipstick. Follow her into that unmarked door with a smoky jazz drifting out of it. You'll find what you're looking for in there. Immediately, you can choose which path to follow. Get back in the lift or enter the mysterious jazz club. I know which I do. Writing for clients. When writing for clients, transparency is by necessity different. I'm ghostwriting as if I'm the client, and of course, I want you to buy the item I'm writing about. I have a vested interest as the client. Having said that, before I agree to write anything, I like to experience it first. If I like it, the job is a pleasure. If I really can't get on board with the project, I would refuse to write about it, but so far that hasn't happened. Who do you think you're talking to? When writing about fragrance, I find it helpful to imagine who I am writing for. If I try and imagine a lot of people I haven't met in real life, I seize up and go shy, a bit like this. So when I write my blog reviews, I imagine I'm talking to one friend over a coffee or a glass of wine. I imagine he or she is deciding whether to buy, and I'm either pitching it to them or talking them out of it. The only bonus I'm chasing is a happy perfume owner. Matchmaking makes me happy. When I read grateful comments from satisfied readers now in possession of a bottle I've talked them into, I feel an abiding sense of fulfillment. When that stops happening, I'll stop blogging. But what about a whole book of perfume descriptions? There's a challenge. Let's talk about the Perfume Companion. Alexander Pope once said that the point of literature was to instruct delightfully. You never forget a good English teacher. With Sarah's introduction and fact boxes in the Perfume Companion, I felt that was achieved. When it came to writing about individual perfumes, we had a word limit that Alexander Pope probably never had to grapple with. I wanted to excite readers, and I expect Sarah was on the same page with this, into trying fragrances that I was so passionate about, evangelical even. It was a similar approach to writing my blog. I like to think there's a sense of wait till you try this one, or if you like that one, you love this one. I like to think I'm providing a service. Excitable, yes. Unapologetically so. Honest, also yes. The brands we mention in the book had no idea we were writing about them, except one. 4,160 Tuesdays knew we were writing about them and knew they would be in the book. In my opinion, it would have been disingenuous not to include them. After all, if Mick Jagger was writing a book about songwriting, you would expect him to mention his band. And the word count, 150 words, give or take, which brings us to how to sum up everything you ever wanted to say about a perfume to someone who has never tried it before in 150 words or less. We had to do this 250 odd times. Sometimes fragrance excites me so much that I can't wait to tell you how it was an early Jean-Claude Elena who was raised in Grasse and how this was his first perfume and how aldehydes were all the rage back then. And there's an apocryphal story about how he used to sleep on actual grass. And this is how it smells and oh, everything. The hardest part is editing myself. I saw it as a pitch. Imagine a reader chooses, say, the Woods chapter of the book, then zones in on floral ouds. Why would they want to try Oud Satin Oud by Maison Francis Kurkdjian? That bit was up to me in 150 words. Here goes. Oud Satin Oud by Maison Francis Kurkdjian. Drama, thank you. Drama from dawn to dusk. Oud Satin Oud has an uncanny ability to smell as smooth as satin, just like its name. This is a rose oud, which admittedly has been done before, but not with a heart as golden and soft as this one. The hub of vanilla at the center gives the agar wood and rose a background that softly hushes their tendency to show off and get carried away. The fragrance unfolds like a cloak of molten gold with ease, oud and vanilla cascading into one another. This has nuclear strength and sillage, so bask in it, luxuriate in it, and enjoy all of its sensual
Buy it.
Oh, great.
If we go missing, we'll be back. It says we're unstable. We'll be fine.
Sometimes I'd squeeze in a snippet of an irresistible backstory. One example is Carven Madrif. When it was first launched, samples of it were parachuted over Paris into the hands of lucky Parisians, who hopefully would then go on to buy a bigger one. Or how about Aftelia Oud Luban, a firm favourite of songwriter Leonard Cohen, or Miller Harris' L'air de rien, inspired by the chic insouciance of Jane Birkin. All details too fabulous to leave out. I always feel a backstory is worth including if it's relevant, charming, or unbelievable, especially the unbelievable ones. They're the best sort. A Flight of Fancy. If you've read the book, you might notice that I'm rather fond of the tool of whimsy. Several of my perfume descriptions will contain an imaginary backdrop of pure whimsical floatiness, frankly. There's a reason for that. I always see perfume as a form of escapism, as many others do. I'm not unique in that. So it feels natural to talk about mysterious forests and alpine slopes and other pleasurable sigh-inducing mnemonics. Let's take Samsara by Guerlain, by Jean-Paul Guerlain. A Scent for a Sorceress. Where June is the beach, excuse me, Samsara is the desert. This come closer sandalwood invites intimacy and soft lighting. The warmth and sensuality wreathe effortlessly around you as soft ylang-ylang and vanilla meld into one. Samsara wears too much eyeliner, but somehow makes the look her own. With sophisticated florals framing aromatic sandalwood, Samsara's earthy mysticism commands loose hair and a sultry smolder. Opulent, exotic, and wearable, Samsara makes for a voluptuous day scent, as well as ably abetting a promising evening of cat and mouse. P.S. The cat wins. Which brings us to the painful selection process. Choosing which fragrances to include in the perfume companion was an emotional experience that reminded me of having to part with beloved obsessions. Possessions, often the same thing. It's like being Marie Kondoed, basically, only perfume. Sarah and I were allowed to pick approximately 250 each. Between us over the years, her more than me, we have probably smelled tens of thousands. I still think of the ones that got away, and I suspect Sarah does too. Our choices were guided by the categories and by perfumes we admired and knew. We decided early on to eschew all negativity. We also tried to include perfumes that were still available. There's a distinct gloom to reading a description of a beautiful fragrance that's now impossible to lay hands on. We missed a few. Some were discontinued as we went to press, but you can still find them online if you look. There was a joy in seeing my writing on the, and a wince of regret as I think of the perfumes on the cutting room floor. If your favourite isn't in there, it's nothing personal. Hopefully the book will leave you feeling. If you're passionate, don't hold back. Offer comparisons, don't obsess too much about notes, and welcome the whimsical.
You see, you're the romantic one, and I'm always called practical and down to earth. That's what people. This is just. That's actually, I didn't know what Sam was going to say, so I was really looking forward to this. Well, I've been writing about perfume since probably before a bundle of you were born. 1996, I started writing the Lush Times for Lush Fresh Handmade Cosmetics, and then I left Lush in 2010, beginning of 2010, and by 2011, I had set up 4,160 Tuesdays, although that was an accident. I meant to be a novelist, and in fact, somewhere over here, there's the novel I self-published because I got bored seeing if anyone wanted to publish it. They didn't. So I started making perfumes that I had described in my book because I couldn't find them because they didn't exist, because 10 years ago, the world of niche fragrance wasn't so exciting. So I had already spent 14 years writing and training international team of writers to write about things that they had to sell. Now that's very different from writing about things that you actually want to encourage people to buy, but from your own perspective. So to have a blog is quite a lovely thing to do, but also you do have to write about fragrances which you want people to buy in your other life. But,
yes, the clients, yes.
Yeah. Exactly. And my only client is me, so I only have to write about my own fragrances. But also, I come from the perspective of knowing what is actually in them a lot of the time, not always. But So I thought I would go a little bit deeper into the notes problem and come out with some guidance that I have given to writers over many years on how to write about fragrances. So I did notice at one point, Sam popped up and said, I wrote it down in orange, I'm not listing notes here. But in fact, what you were listing notes, you weren't listing materials. Because materials are completely different from notes, usually. Notes are the output, materials are the input. So if you say something smells of candy floss, it does, that's a note. And peppermint, it does, it's a note. It's also a material.
I was just talking about the notes.
But you said you're not listing notes. So what do you mean by, see, this, it just perfectly jumped into my trap there.
Actually,
jumped into my trap.
It's interesting. When I put candy floss, I didn't check to see if there was candy floss in it, or if that was like a top note or a middle note, which Sarah doesn't do top, middle, period anyway. But that was my first impression. And I think when you smell something, write down what you can smell, whether it's in there or not.
Yeah, because they are actually, that's what the notes are. So if I've confused you all, I intend to unconfuse everything. But candy floss, no one puts candy floss in a perfume.
It's sticky.
They put ethyl maltol in a perfume, which is sticky actually. But ethyl maltol, it smells as sticky. It's a powder. So you put ethyl maltol into a perfume to make the smell of candy floss. But no one's going to list on a notes list ethyl maltol. They're going to say candy floss. So the input is ethyl maltol. The output is candy floss. And actually in the world of perfume, you've got the notes list is the thing we want it to smell of, the impressions we want people to get.
Well,
so
it's successful in
yes.
this case.
So what you said, you perfectly listen. Suntan lotion, candy floss, CA, and peppermint. That's what the notes are. But the input was actually peppermint, benzoyl salicylate, methyl, ethyl maltol, and calome. So, but that'd be really boring if we said that's what we'd put in and nobody would know what to expect. But we get constantly, I think like my biggest problem is people writing saying, is there peach in it? And the question is really, does it smell of peaches? Because there isn't peach in it. There's gamma undecalactone in it, but it smells of peaches. So I think it's quite important to not assume that there's something in it, which is, a technical thing, but to say it smells of. So that's my real obsession, which I'm not going to give up anyway. For example, did you put leather in it? No, but put isobutyl quinoline in it. If it smells of leather. What's red musk? I've seen red musk on the notes list. There isn't any. That's made up. So I would say interrogate your perfume company. I don't know actually who's here and what your purpose is in writing, but if you're writing on behalf of a brand, try to get out of them what they actually use. I mean, secret, and so there's all of those problems. But it smells of peach means it's made with gamma undecalactone. It's and it smells of red musk. Somebody just made that up. But I think we need more openness, which is exactly what you're talking about, transparency. Even if people aren't interested in the actual materials, they don't turn up, say, one of my workshops and say, okay, I'd like to use some of your, okay, what doesn't exist? Snow. I've used snow in a notes list. Have you got snow? Like, and that's just water. No, I don't actually have snow. It just smells like snow because I used Rosalba. And if you try and make a perfume out of things on the notes list, it will smell terrible. So, but that's not something which is often opened up about. I had that head of Tom Ford's training in here once.
Oh.
He's lovely man. And his jaw just kept dropping. And, he said, well, do you put, there is no black orchid used in perfumery. And yet, I've been told that Tom Ford has a special field where black orchids are grown just for him. I mean, orchids don't even grow in fields, and there aren't any black ones. We should stop being afraid of the fact that perfumers write about these things in scent. They're creating paintings, invisible paintings that you can smell, Nobody thinks you create an orange painting out of crushing up oranges and smacking them on the wall. So I think we need more openness about that, and more understanding and less fear of chemicals. So, because a lot of them are a lot more safe than naturals, but that's a whole other issue. But truth, I think we need a bit of truth and the story. So before I start writing, I will think, how do I want my reader to feel? And this is something I've been doing for years and years. It's a good technique. Can I put together the emotions that I want? And if I am basing my writing on 4 different emotions, 4's good, 3's inadequate, 5's a little over the top. Can you nail them down? I mean, my 4 top feelings that I generally want to evoke are, I want people to feel intrigued, amused, inspired, and content. I think very similar to yours, really.
Yeah. I want to make people happy.
Yeah, content in that at the end they feel that they've got what they hoped for from reading it. So if you set down 4 things, you will find that it's just so much easier to get from the start to the finish. I mean, there are other things like just deciding to start with the letter B, just things to get you kicked off. But this is specifically about perfume, but that's quite, you know, there are plenty of techniques for getting unstuck, which I'm running a course on. But also, I mean, by the way, I mean, I have things here like cis-3-hexanol, which is the smell of cut grass. So if you ever need to know, you know, what are these actual things? What does Davana smell like? You know, that's popped up on notes lists all over the place. It's a herb. It smells like mulled wine, but who knew? Do you smell Davana?
Yeah.
Okay. So then, what do we want people to do? We want them to start, read, finish, do something. Even if the do is feel happier, feel that they've learned something, or in a lot of cases, press add to basket. That a lot of the time for me, that would be nice too. Or not add to basket if we think that that's not the kind of thing they're going to enjoy. So, and there's so much more to it, as you know, Sam beautifully wrote. The feelings that you can evoke. You know, follow the jazz club. Don't go into the cleany musk. That's just perfect for describing. You don't need a list of things that are in it. It's like, ooh, okay, too much eyeliner and off into the jazz club. Yes, that's the perfume we want, or you don't. I think it's an imaginative, but it's so much more helpful way of describing. So, yeah, I want nobody to rush into things and regret it. I don't want a bunch of customers ever who are going to be thinking, look at things on their shelf like that, and think, oh, I wish I hadn't bought that. That's worse, I think, than not buying something you wish you had. So, I'm thinking that I would read out something from my own website that I know you can read my website. I'll find something from the website that I can tell you about, because I meant to print it out and I forgot. We'll drink our tea while I get out. And I'll tell you what I will do. I can go first to I'm just going to go right. Okay, messed up, easily fixed. Here we go to my website, and I'm going to read a product. What should I read? Which one do you think I should pick?
Rosa Ribas.
Rosa Ribas. Right. Okay. So I will do that. Whistle amongst yourselves. Shop. Current collection. R for Rosa. R for Ribas. I've got loads. Masses of perfumes, but we get down to R. Did ever I print out the wrong document? Okay, so I have written, so it's got an introduction: blackcurrant, rose, chypre with citrus fruits, moss, myrrh, and musk, Sarah's own personal perfume, which it is. So that, if you don't like blackcurrant, then leave the page, you'll find now. And then we have add to basket, but okay. Rosa Rebase rhymes with eBase. is a rose blackcurrant chypre fragrance, the result of Sarah's continuing obsessions with Ribena and all things curranty. There are black currant bushes in her tiny garden and raspberry canes too. It's the balance of rose and fruit with its chypre heart that makes it her absolute favorite. The chypre is made with a drop of oak moss absolute, bergamot, opoponax, and patchouli. Although the perfumery master plan is that they're blended so you can't distinguish them, they just become one smooth, fragrant cloud. But the thing about that perfume is it is so blackcurrant rose that I'm kind of aiming to put off anybody who doesn't like them. So, and then I'm happy, but explaining also that it's my favorite. So people tend to be a bit intrigued to find out. I mean, it was my favorite when I wrote it. Every time I make a new fragrance, that's my favorite. What can make your perfume writing better? I would say empathy, but without assuming things about people. Now, you don't necessarily know who's going to read it, but I always find, like you find, imagining a person that you're writing to. You think, this person I think would like this. I'll write it for them. But assumptions like, we all know what it's like to go yachting in the Caribbean. Like, no, mate, we don't. Don't say that. You can say, imagine you were yachting in the Caribbean. Everyone can do that. Somebody might not like it because they might not like the sea. But I think the worst thing people can write is, we've all done it. Try and be chummy and matey. No, you're pushing it too far. Don't do that. Kindness. And by that I mean, actually get your punctuation right. Nobody notices if you've punctuated correctly. See, this is where you're romantic and I like practical. Get your full stops in the right place, right? But I mean, if you put an apostrophe in the wrong place, people will just shudder to a halt and stop. It's like indicating as you come off a roundabout, if you've got to cut, it's like, it's not for you. Nobody, you don't care. It doesn't make any difference. But for the pedestrians and other motorists who want to know what you're doing, it's helpful. So get people to check your writing, and because we never spot our own mistakes, we had to read a lot of ours. So do that. Oh, and we've got sound has disappeared. Oh, that was, I hope it's back. Anyway, sorry, I'm just reading the chat. And yes. Oh, suggest some words. Okay, Dalila, we'll be back. And then I'm back to truth as well. So empathy, pick a person. If you don't know the real person, just pick one, right, for them. Kindness, make it short, make it good. Don't put in long words when you can use short words. I like my motto is never utilize when you can use. It's the same thing. Utilize is just French for use. People might utilize, they want to sound important. No one cares. You're not important. Just write use. And truth, tell the stories. If you can get the reality of why something came into being, it's more interesting. Like that I've got black currants and raspberries in my garden and I'm obsessed with Ribena. That's the truth of it. And that's what Lush are very good at, telling the creation stories of things. But the perfume industry is quite bad because it's so secretive. People who don't make perfumes pretend they do. I was told by a Dior salesperson that, oh yes, this is the création de Monsieur Dior. Like, no, it was Edmund Rudnitska. Don't mess with me. So there's an internet now. People can look things up. And it's not nice to find out you've been lied to. And there's a few brands I will never go back to just because it's like, no, that wasn't true. They think like, it's all completely natural when it's really completely not. And also, there is absolutely no shame in using aroma chemicals. They're excellent. They change people's lives. They make perfume affordable. So the more we can open up about molecules, for me, the better the world will be. So here's the thing. What if you have to write about something you really loathe? What do you do? Because I had to write about some Lush things that I really couldn't stand. You've got to use someone else's truth. You've got to find a person who loves it and write it for them. So I used to collect words from people who adored, what's it called? Creamy candy bar, something like that. For me, but my nephew absolutely adored this aroma. So I said, well, what do you like about it? I collect and I write it for him. And that's the way I could keep some integrity knowing that, I mean, it's sold by the bucket load. People loved it. And I wasn't going to say to myself, well, I can't because it's against my principles. Like, it's my job. It was my job at the time to write about something that, you know, people really love there. I've got one fragrance I make that I don't like. Black Velvet Cafe. It's really, really, really full-on stinky oud. And it's some people's absolute favorite. So I write for them. This is a full-on stinky oud with coffee. You'll love it. But that's the way it is. So also you can write the opposite. Don't know if you've ever tried this, but if I was writing Creamy Candy Bar, again, sorry, Lush fans, but I would write, I can't stand this. Really running a bath and then getting in with this in it, I think I'd just run from the room as fast as I possibly could. In fact, I'd probably try and put somebody else in it. And then I'd review that and think, well, how can I write the opposite? It's like bouncing off a trampoline. So write, I love this. I can't wait to run a bath and leap into it. In fact, I think I'd invite someone in to join me. Something like that, you know. If you think, just write what you feel and then flip it. If that's your job, the thing about purpose, you know that there are hundreds, maybe thousands of people out there who will love this. And so writing what you hate about it, it's fine if you're reviewing. That's just mean. And then also if you're being paid to do it, you've got to choose its good points for the people who love it. And that's still, and integrity still tick. You're doing it for them. You just tell people,
this one's for you. Like a good DJ.
Perfect. So, I mean, can we solve this notes problem thing? One is you can learn what things really smell like. What do you think of the Divana?
It smells like rum. It smells like rum trifle. It's not how I expected it at all.
And it's a kind of artemisia. So it's a herb. You think, oh, is it going to be a bit like rosemary? No, it's a bit like mulled wine.
Whiskey. Yeah.
It's a very, very boozy thing. So quite often if something has boozy notes, it might be Divana. It might be rum ether. Nobody actually pours rum in. So if you don't know what it's made with, write it smells of. Then you have truth. It reminds me of, it has an air of. But then avoid, it contains, it's made with. And especially my favorite, it uses the finest possible natural, because nobody uses rubbish stuff in perfumery. I mean, there just isn't anything else really. And well, not proper perfume. You don't buy it down the market where it might have been diluted with something. But actually, the finest possible learn. See, we'll be back. It's back again, I think. But yes, if you can ask the perfumer, get into the details, find out as much truth as you can, then decide what to say. That would be good. Find out about materials. Find out what they really do smell of. I mean, I've got I'll point to it. I've got kits up here of, no, they're too far, not behind it, over there. Hundreds of different bottles of things to smell. And you might be surprised to find out, what osmanthus actually smells like. That smells boozy as well. Jazz Club. Or ambroxan, or hedione, or Apopanax, or other things you just think don't smell by themselves. Nothing used in perfume is a pheromone. You can read the works of Professor Tristram Wyatt, but there aren't any pheromones in perfumes. So, I mean, there is a pheromone that some people, you can get it on the internet, but it's a pig pheromone, and it only actually works on male pigs. So, but if you put it makes people feel confident so that they feel more attractive, but there aren't any. See, I'm so not romantic. This is practical. However, there's nothing that will make you instantly sexually attractive. They'll make you smell better, and then you feel better. So you're more confident, so you're more attractive. That's how it works. There was even some research done with links, where it was proven that men who wear links are more attractive, but only when they're doing online dating.
Oh, how funny.
When you can't smell them.
When you can't smell it anyway.
Yeah, they put it on and they think, I'm ready now. and the ones who weren't given the links felt a bit more, a bit incomplete, not sure if I'm, it's like putting your lipstick on. Which is interesting because then wear it to help you feel confident and ready. So almost everything, though, can be an aphrodisiac in the right circumstances, but nothing on its own and without being attached to a person who has a smile on its face. So confidence is attractive to just the right amount, and feeling just right gives people confidence. And if they're wearing the right fragrance, then they will feel great, which is why we guide them towards finding the right fragrance so they feel marvelous. And on that note, that is my shortcut to how to write better about perfumes. Oh, I forgot to read out the book. No, I'm not finished. I was finished now. It's gone all dark in here. Right, no, the one I was going to write is Pierre Guillaume, and it is Sucre d'Ébène. So I'm going to find that because I'm going to read out index page 229. We should show you how pretty it looks, really, shouldn't we? 229, here we go. Look, that's got the caramel page. So I'm going to read this one. So this is what I'm writing when I have no financial interest in it whatsoever. I just think you'd like it if you like it. So, and we've written about Demeter's molasses just up at the top, so I'm referring to that. If Demeter's molasses is your gateway gourmand, then Sucre d'Ébène is your serious sugar, dark, rich, and refined. It smells as if it's been bubbling for days in a huge pan over a wood fire, ready to make into soft toffee. Pierre Guillaume has a whole catalogue of fragrances, enough to fill 1/3 of this book, which has now been collected into one eponymous brand. I've had this since it was in a white bottle from 8e Art. It's the same one. You can buy the sample set from his website and take 6 months to try them one at a time. He's bravely going where no perfumer has gone before, and there will be at least one in there that you adore. This is mine. So we could have written about all 160 of his, I think. But actually, I think I'm selling I want people to buy the actual set. His taster set is 3 layers. Brooke and I thought we'd finished them all, and then we discovered there was another layer on the bottom.
Oh, I love that. So, like chocolates.
Oh, yeah. So that's the way we do it. Is notes lists are not only inaccurate but a bit boring. But what they're good for is opening a conversation. I think if you're going into if somebody doesn't know what to say in a perfume shop and they can look up a notes list, at least you can have a chat. But otherwise, they're fairly meaningless. Controversial, hashtag. So, right, it's question time then. I run Stanza Artigiana. I can do that. A sustainable candle business. What kind of words would you suggest for me? In this world where everything goes through internet websites, how do you manage the SEO? Do you write considering the SEO? Do you optimize the content at the end? I never do any of that.
No, me.
If people want to find me, they find me. I don't really want to boost sales. I want to just sell what we make. And so writing for SEO, I know how to do it. But Google it's so clever these days. As soon as people optimize for SEO, it dumps you in the Google dungeon. I've also written a book about marketing online. That was 2007, before I did this stuff. And Google's like only one step behind people who try to optimize for SEO. So I always add in the sentence about what it's about. I say what it is really about. I put the search terms, which will be used to people find what they actually want. But I never write a paragraph that is, will have lots of mentions of the same word in, because what happens is that Google will find that and just dump you, just wipes you down the bottom and sticks you in the Google dungeon. So actually the best way to optimize for SEO these days is to write what you love, put in accurate tags. So when you're dealing with the metadata, be accurate. I never put in other people's brand names and stuff like that to try and divert people there, because I just think that's evil. But if you know, when people do ask me about SEO, it's such a long time since I've been asked, I almost forgot. But just actually make it interesting, and get recommended by other people. So AI isn't intelligence, it's idiotic. It's, you know, I just think it's artificial idiocy, that it just gets smaller and smaller and smaller and brings people in. It's like a kind of whirlpool that sucks people into the biggest thing. I'm probably not helping, am I? But I don't optimize anything. I just tell it the way it is and then add in correct metadata. Does that help? Might help a bit. What else we got?
I've got a question.
Hello.
Hi, I'm back. I just want to also say thank you so much. I've really thoroughly enjoyed hearing you both talk, and both different sides, you know, the whimsical and obviously then with the kind of more accurate with the ingredients behind. I think that's very interesting. And also the idea of materials being inputs and the notes being an output, which, you know, people do get confused with those two words. They think they're synonyms for each other. So I think that's really interesting to keep that difference. Obviously what we're talking about is kind of making it personal, and if you're not sure of the ingredients, try and you know, have your instinct of what the fragrance is, because that's what works for yourself personally. But then to transfer that into selling techniques actually in person can be quite difficult. Oh, have you frozen? Are you still there? I hope you're still there and can hear me. If you can't, I'm going to carry on with my question.
Put it in the, because
I'm going to put it in the chat.
No, okay. Hang on one second. Yeah, good plan. Because I put it in the chat.
So
perfect.
It was just in terms of how do you translate the words into selling techniques then in person? Because keeping it personal and trying to reflect an honest instinct is quite difficult when you're meeting somebody for the first time. So how do you, I'm going to quickly write it. How do you translate the words into meeting someone for the first time?
Okay, how do you translate the words into a meeting someone? So do you mean the perfume meeting someone for the first time?
Both. You as a selling on, say we have people that are here that are watching that are you know, sales assistants. So how do you translate kind of, obviously people are just given notes, materials, and then they're just meant to go out and sell that on the floor. So how do you create that connection?
Yeah. Absolutely. Now that is really tough. So how, and thanks Daniela for buying the book. So the information that's available, I mean, there's Michael Edwards' book that tells, you know, if you haven't got this, then they might like this. The notes are there, I would say, for getting into a conversation.
Right.
The more that salespeople can, you know, get to know the perfumes that surround them. Someone like, you know, James Craven, who was at Les Senteurs and is now at Angela Flanders, he just knows so many fragrances. And if somebody says, well, I really like this, they might say, I like bergamot. So he'll be able to dish out some bergamot things. It's a point of connection. So a notes list is, it smells of, it's fine to say, oh yeah, well, according to the book here, this one smells of candy floss, so I'll get that one out for you. And then you just get talking, because so many people tell me they don't like rose. And it's because they don't like tuberose and they think tuberose is a rose. And they're completely different. Or, you know, that Yves Saint Laurent's Paris was called Paris, not rosy something or other, because it's really rosy, but they know so many people thought they didn't like roses. So sometimes notes lists can go, you know, down the wrong route. So this one's, oh, I don't like rose. And then unfortunately that might mean the door shuts to lots of things that they might like. But people in the UK tend to know the word, they know fresh and light, and then they say, I like something that smells natural. And usually those things like 80% hedione, methyl dihydrojasmonate. So people's descriptive powers are very limited in perfumery. I mean, because we're not taught smells at school. Apparently kids are now, thank goodness, partly down to the Fragrance Foundation.
Yes, we have a program.
Yeah, it's great. And there's another one in New York with Christophe Laudemiel. So, but people's vocabulary is very limited. So you just need to find what's the one thing that I find. It's like if people say, oh, I like something rich and deep and dark. And I've had a conversation with somebody once, and finally I said, like what? And she said, Body Shop White Musk, which is light and fluffy. But she thought that musk meant rich and deep and dark.
Right.
So I honestly find if you say to people, you know, what kind of thing do you like? And they say, I like this one. You find out what the character of that fragrance is. Is it jazz club or is it garden? Is it seaside or is it forest? And you know the nature, or if they're wearing something, and you can, I don't know if you're allowed to quite these days, probably not allowed to smell. It depends how long their arms are. You know, can I smell your arm? And if you get the more you just get people to open up and say what they like, the more you know and the more you can suggest.
Amazing. So it's trust completely through every aspect, really, then, isn't it? Through the marketing descriptions, right down to people that sell it, and then through to the customer themselves. So I think that's really important. Through writing, you've got to be completely transparent and trust each other with what's been written. And I just want to say thank you so much. If anybody has any other questions, then please don't hesitate to get in touch with us after this, or if you have anything now that you quickly want to touch on. But I just want to say thank you so much to Sam and Sarah. It's such an inspiring and different way to look at fragrance. I think people forget sometimes, you know, writing's so important about fragrance because it's somewhere a different way of us connecting with that. And it's really kind of an important time as well for the Fragrance Foundation, because our Jasmine Awards have opened for 2022. So entries are open for anybody watching as well. I know that you two are definitely going to be entering yourselves with your book, incredible book. So good luck with that. There you go. And anybody else watching as well, please do enter. It's such an interesting way of looking at fragrance, like I've said. But yes, thank you so much, the pair of you, and good luck with everything that you're doing. And I hope to speak to you very soon. And I hope everyone has a lovely day.